Our speaker is Silvia Donato from Università Cattolica del Sacro Cuore, Milano in Italy. Today, she presents her talk on the topic When Love and Work Collide, Boundary Negotiation in Home Workspaces Among Hybrid Working Couples.
Registra. Hello everyone, my name is Silvia Donato and I'm Associate Professor at Social Psychology at the Catholic University of Milan, Italy. I'm very pleased to be presenting today, and my talk is titled When Love and Work Collide, Boundary Negotiation in Home Workspaces Among Hybrid Working Couples. In recent years, hybrid work has profoundly transformed how people experience home work. These shifts create not only challenges in managing boundaries between professional and family roles, but it also affects the dynamics of love, intimacy, and partnership. Academics, in particular, often rely on working from home. This arrangement, in fact, supports focus and flexibility, yet it can also intensify the overlap between work and professional life. Despite this, most existing research treats boundary management as an individual process, overlooking how boundaries are actually shaped within relationships and within shared domestic spaces. Our study, therefore, shifts the lens towards the couple and the home environment. We explore how partners co-create and sometimes challenge boundaries when they share the same space for both love and work. Our conceptual foundation is boundary management theory, which explains how individuals regulate the interaction between different roles in daily life. Roles refer to socially defined sets of expectations, responsibilities, and behaviors associated with different life domains, especially work and family. Home spaces act as physical and symbolic boundary cues. They can reinforce separation between roles or make roles more permeable. At the same time, boundaries are deeply relational. They depend on partners, children, colleagues, and the broader cultural expectations. The study therefore connects spatial, relational, and cultural layers to understand how people manage boundaries when home becomes both a personal and a professional space. The aim of this qualitative study is to investigate how home workspaces shape boundary management, as well as relational experiences among a sample of female academics and their male partners, adopting a dyadic lens to explore negotiation of space, time, and care. We conducted a dyadic qualitative study with 10 couples composed of a female academic and a male partner who both worked from home at least 2 days per week. We carried out 20 semi-structured sequential interviews, one for each partner, lasting about 75 minutes each. Interviews topics included perceived boundaries between work and family roles using a visual tool of increasingly overlapping circles, descriptions of home workspaces, what help and hinder boundary management when working from home, and whether and how the physical arrangement of space supported or challenged boundaries. Interviews were transcribed verbatim and analyzed through thematic analysis, which followed 6 phases: familiarization, coding, theme development, theme review, definition of and naming, and reporting. To fully leverage the dyadic design, we also examined the data at the couple level, identifying convergencies and divergencies between partners. The first theme we found 5 themes, and the first concerned how participants signified the relationship between work and family roles. Most participants describe high overlap between roles. For many, especially parents, this overlap was experienced as interference, where family needs disrupted work or vice versa. At the same time, some acknowledge positive enrichment, such as personal growth or emotional fulfillment carrying across roles. Participants reported frequent family-to-work interference, but they also describe strong work to family permeability, that is, intruding thoughts about work during family time, for example, by checking emails or thinking about unfinished tasks. This often generated guilt, especially among participants with young children, who felt mentally split between roles. Most participants expressed a desire for clearer boundaries, suggesting that the current level of overlap was more burdensome than beneficial. Participants emphasized that the physical space played a crucial role in boundary management. Many described working from home as reinforcing the overlap between work and family life, particularly when the workspace lacked privacy or structure. Several participants, moreover, highlighted the need to adapt the home workspace to better support boundaries. These included ensure comfort, privacy, and sometimes having a dedicated room or workstation. Some described a sense of workspace ownership created through personalization of space, although this was often occasional rather than intentional. Not only space itself, but also its occupants were mentioned as important supplies or barriers for boundary management. Among them, partners emerge as the most influential figures in boundary management. Their practical support, such as sharing housework or coordinating childcare, helped participants balance work and family responsibilities. Although couples often describe their division of labor as balanced, many arrangements still follow traditional gender norms, and negotiation of tasks were often limited. Partners also regulated boundaries implicitly by activating either the work role or the family role through their presence or routine. Sometimes a partner struggling with detachment from work made it harder for the other to disconnect. Negotiating boundaries could be conflictual, especially regarding shared spaces, for example, for different needs, for order or organization, or differences in work rhythms. Overall, partner represented both a key resource and a potential source of strain. Interestingly, we found no major within-couple differences in boundary management between female academics and their partners. However, sharing the same profession influenced experiences. In sharing couples, it was easier to understand each other, but it was also easier to blur boundaries more. As said, boundary management was also shaped by those who physically or virtually share the same home space, including children and older parents who often struggle to respect work boundaries, or even colleagues and bosses through calls or demands that enter the family space and time. Shared norms and what we called home workspace etiquette, for example, discouraging work communication during evenings or weekends, were considered helpful. Expectations of constant availability, on the contrary, clearly undermined boundaries. Teleworking policies at the organization level provided important external structure, especially when the nature of academic work, high flexibility, job insecurity, and intense competition already complicated boundary management and often pushed work to take priority. Many participants did not report gender differences in their personal experiences. However, several, and particularly women, recognized the presence of gender inequalities at the broader societal and cultural level. Women were perceived as being disadvantaged in their use of home workspace, especially when the division of labor within couples was unbalanced. This was attributed to the tendency to associate women with domestic responsibilities and to stereotypical beliefs that devalue women's work, making it appear as less legitimate and more open to interruptions when performed at home. Parents, and particularly mothers, reported feelings of inadequacy and guilt that were linked to cultural norms promoting intensive parenting and motherhood. Such norms position mothers as primarily responsible for children's well-being and encourage the prioritization of family demands over personal and professional needs, thereby further complicated boundary management. To summarize, these findings suggest that domestic workspaces are not neutral backdrops. They actively shape daily interaction, boundary practices, and power dynamics within the couple, contributing to the construction or erosion of relational well-being and gender equality when couples work from home. Second, by framing boundary management as a relational and cultural phenomenon, this study shows that boundary management between work and family is not an individual task, but a deeply relational process embedded in intimate partnerships. How couples love, support, and negotiate with each other plays a crucial role in determining whether boundaries become protective, porous, or burdensome. Within couples, partners emerge as central actors through practical support, implicit role activation, modeling of behaviors, and shared norms around time, space, and availability. At the same time, love relationships also represented key sites of tensions, where differences in expectations, work rhythms, and use of shared spaces could generate conflict and strain. From a relational perspective, love and partnership appear to function as both a resource and a vulnerability. Emotional closeness and mutual understanding can reduce the need for explicit negotiation, especially when partners share similar professional cultures. Yet, this same closeness can intensify boundary blurring and mutual interference. Importantly, these dynamics were shaped by broader cultural and gendered norms, which often placed unequal pressures on women, particularly mothers, and influenced how legitimacy, guilt, and responsibility were distributed within couples. This study has limitations. It included only female and male Italian couples and relied on self-reported interviews. Future study, therefore, should involve diverse family structure, cross-cultural comparisons, and mixed method approaches involving both qualitative and quantitative designs. Nonetheless, these findings suggest several implications for supporting love relationships when partners work from home. First, couples would benefit from explicit conversations about how to use space and time, agreeing upon protected moments, shared rules, and realistic expectations. Partner support is essential for recognizing each other's needs, reducing interruptions, and developing routines together. Overall, intervention should treat boundary management as a relational skill, not merely an individual one. At the broader level, intervention should address both structural and cultural barriers, promoting equitable divisions of domestic labor, challenging norms that devalue women's professional efforts, and developing organizational policies that recognize the specific pressures faced when workers work from home, especially caregivers. So integrating relationally sensitive frameworks into research design and workplace practices makes it possible to foster more inclusive and sustainable models of academic and professional work in the home. Thank you for your attention.